to Occultists Anonymous and our Into the West Mage Chronicle. I'm here with Ralph. You might know him. If you don't know Ralph, please go back to episode 1. Otherwise, it's going to be a really confusing episode. Actually, crap, I may have made that joke already. Oh, well. But a special shout out to all you who support us and back us. Thank you to our patrons. Adele, Alice, Aiden, Al, Alexander, Alstrit, BBL, Drizzy, Bernie, Buck, Chris, Doc, Emil, Ethan, Jeff, George, I'm the Real 06, James, Camo, Catfeathers, Klaus, Live Love Lesbian, Milo V3, Moku, Mozart D Minor, Nexus, Nick, Other Guy, Perry, Foog, Polka Dot, Hubris, Porter, Puppeteer, Riafio, Sean, Shaxara, Starfish, Terran, Terry D, Thomas, Verhext, Vincent, Vortex, and Zoltan. Thank you all so much for your support. When we last left off, Legba had just been like, we need to get Theodosia back home right now because she's in trouble.
Indeed.
Dropped the rest of the coven off because Petrichor is staying behind at the Maelstrom. And I don't remember if we actually said for sure where Legba was headed. Other than we had some plans, but we had said Theo was going to go meet up with Catherine, Helena was going to relax, and Isabel was staying there. And then Legba was kind of, we can literally actually pick up with Legba arriving just outside Purgatory Bluff in one of our sneaky little places. And everybody kind of, bids adieu. Walks off, everybody's good, cool, and everybody's spreading Theo's at that quick trot. Gotta get back to the wife. Yeah, for those who haven't seen Craig's episode yet, because I know Ralph hasn't, the conversation started with, let me give you a foot rub. It's like, I'm in the doghouse. So, and I bring that up because if Legba is going out to meet up with some of Liaison Fun, I know they're out that way, so that might be one of those vignettes of a vignette, right, as we're walking along and you see them over there talking. Set the stage for us.
Wonderful. So the first thing that's on Legba's mind is to return his astral form to Purgatory Bluff in the astral.
Right.
He likes to center himself wherever he is, one for the purposes of his legacy attainments, and the other because having himself astrally connected to what people are talking about allows him to remain privy to the goings on of town in a way that the others aren't regularly doing. So in addition to him, going to the crossroads and having a mystery cult and all of this stuff, right? He often he often strolls through the streets of astral Purgatory Bluff in order to get more information.
Makes me realize that Legba is probably the best town gossip. Not necessarily that you are gossiping, but anything anybody is talking about, Legba just like watches somebody walk by and go, who is talking about what is that? What is that all about? That's somebody else's business. But yeah, that's true. All the gossip, because it's literally what people are talking about.
Yeah.
I like that.
He's constantly reviewing it. So
well, yeah, in that case, let's actually talk about your astral form. And now with the understanding that it's been 2 weeks, some of your difficulty, and in my head, not dissociation, we'll just stick with difficulty in finding the tower of the Eater of Supernal Beings, was because you were basically trying to do stuff out of sync. The astral and the Temenos is already kind of funny and out of sync with normal passing of time, but it is still in that same linear path. And you were kind of in this weird desync thing where stuff was going around you effectively faster, but at the same time not, because of the astral. It's not something that we necessarily like really delved into, but now in retrospect, I'm sure Legba is able to see it's like, oh, and now I'm caught up to normal speed. I'm perceiving things like the normal, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. He's in an emanation realm. He's also in a castle where no time passes.
To be
his
fair,
astral form
that is the
was out of
whole
sync.
emanation realm.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Gotcha.
But yes. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And so now he feels recovered,
hmm hmm
connected again, more comfortable.
sitting into your favorite chair in
Yes.
in the living room. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, that kind of thing. And so in the astral sense, I bet there's a fence he likes to post up on. In
Mm-hmm,
the same
hmm
way that certain depictions of Papa Legba are where he's near a fence and near dogs coming to lick his hands and he's leaning on it at a liminal space,
Right.
at a gate or, a threshold or something like that as he looks out over town. And so in the Temenos, the physical distance is merely an abstraction, right? So
hmm
this is just his way of eavesdropping, hearing what's happening. He
Yeah.
doesn't feel astrally disconnected or distanced from people,
hmm
but he isn't directly engaging the Goetia that represent the members of the town. He's just listening in his way.
Right. I like that. Yeah. Of note, yeah, nothing seems to be happening much. There is the obvious within of the Goetia of Isabel. Sheriff Isabel
Mm.
is missing, right? And so like
Oh, cool.
there's almost
Yeah.
this shadow of her, whereas the deputies are outside her little office and are looking a little bit bigger and a little bit more
Mm.
imposing, and it's from a distance,
That's
and
cool.
the nature of Goetia, right? They're putting
Yeah.
on a show. It's the we're I'm bigger, I'm more important, to
Yes.
pay no
Hmm.
attention to the shadow behind me. And people are clearly talking about it. They're not literally saying the deputies are getting big for the bridges or anything like that, but the
Hmm.
perspective of hmm that is that is interesting. Where is the sheriff?
Yeah.
Nobody's seen her. And as we mentioned, Jules lie about going to meet with a Comey, but still people are like, but for 2 weeks, we're like,
Yes.
and especially because Jules lie probably started with, oh, they're going to be gone for a couple days. And then a couple
Hmm.
days became a couple more days and a couple more days. And it's like, okay, yes, that's happening over there. Yes.
Yeah. That's funny.
And then physically, where it's leg beheaded.
Legba's going to head to see Les Enfants.
Okay, that's what I had figured. Um, yeah, and we get the the great scene of I compared to everybody else, where everyone's like, "Oh, you're back! Thank goodness!" Jules had a more kind of like, "I knew you guys were coming back. You're mages. You have magic." Catherine is upset. For Les Enfants, I feel like it is one of those things of, yes, you told us you were going, but we are self sufficient. So if you
Yeah.
never came back, we would go, huh, that's upsetting. Okay, that's fine. We will still make decisions. We will still continue on. We do not need Cloak.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, we have uh,
Mambo
Mambo
Etoile.
Etoile,
Yeah.
who
Cloak's
leads us
not in
now.
charge.
Right.
So,
But the return does clearly gladden people. Some folks, you can see the tension out of their shoulders, and it's
great.
right. It's like, oh, okay, no, he's still here. Like, not that figurehead is a wrong term, mascot almost, right? It's like I'm trying to figure out a good term for it, because you're not leading. I'm trying to think of a
No.
a appropriate way to say it. I guess the elder retired statesman
Well,
kind of
you can
vibe.
say elder. I mean,
Oh, that's
elder
actually
is
a good
really,
point. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, especially in the sense that once he took on the mantle and the identity of Papa Legba, right?
hmm That's true.
So when he is stepping away and he was the former lead, but he is an Ungan, right? Like it's right there, right? Like he's a member of the um the priesthood,
hmm
right? The all of these individuals in the community are looked at for guidance,
hmm
but the ones who are officially in charge are going to make certain decisions. So yeah, I think you can just lean on that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because he's still an Ungan. He's still a leader. He's
Yeah.
just not
Hmm.
the one actively in charge anymore. That's true. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I like that. So yeah, very happy to see you. And Jeremiah, who at this point, most everybody else has either returned home. It's been 2 weeks. Have had
Yeah.
return home or settled in. Well, actually, nobody has magically returned home, but some folks have, settled in or found new homes here or gone on a journey of like, you know what, I'm free. I'm just going to head west, or,
Cool. Really?
or get on a riverboat, right? Because we're out
Wow.
in
Yeah.
lawless,
Hmm.
empty, open lands, and moving west, or I guess some folks might even head a little bit east towards I guess would it be Missouri, St. Louis? Probably
All
they
the way
wouldn't even go
there?
that far. Yeah, that's true. No, they probably wouldn't even go that far. Yeah, probably. uh
Kansas is right next to Colorado.
yeah, so it would probably be because that's starting to get some development. Yeah.
Hmm.
Or south to Mexico, or
Yeah.
yeah, just anything anything away from the southeast. But yeah, many I feel stay here, and at this point, having the coven has been doing this enough that Purgatory Bluff probably like I haven't seen that face before, or have I?
Hmm.
Maybe I have, and just but between all of Les Enfants and then new arrivals, it's just one of those things of we're out, and so many I imagine have started to move into the farmlands and do
Yeah.
their own
Hmm.
work. That it's like,
Yep.
oh, maybe am I missing up? Did they have a kid?
Hmm.
Because you have
Yeah.
these children out of nowhere. It's like, did I hang on? It's just like, okay, well, we'll just move on. It's none of our business. They're not harming us. I can just mind my own business because nobody moves out west out here without having some either sense of adventure or, you know what, I had a past and people don't need to know about it. Especially coming to a place called Purgatory Bluff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, Jeremiah is there looking much better, right?
Great.
His
Yeah.
legs are healed. Oh, well, leg singular is healed. But he looks you in the eye
Hmm.
and he knows that
Yeah.
something has changed. There's some connection. The whole windows are the eyes.
Mm.
Eyes are the window to the soul. And he just looks at you, and just like there's the smile. He's happy to see you, and then it drops, and like he knows. And there is no there's no fear. I think if anything, there might be
Mhm.
some shame. It's misplaced, obviously,
Mm.
but the like, oh no, you have seen something. He doesn't even have this memory, right? But
Mhm.
you've seen something. There's that connection, and he just knows that you know something about him now. And what
Great.
it is, he doesn't necessarily know, but he just like, oh, but comes over. Um, I think we've established Legba as a hugger now, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Mhm.
and so there's that the the embrace, and you were looking well, we've been wondering where you were, you've been eating, it seems, some of the pleasant banter, right? Like
Yeah. Mhm.
but for everybody else it feels genuine. For Jeremiah, who's still on the outside, some of that is it's forced, right? You can
Mhm.
see, and everybody else, if they were looking for it, would probably see it, but they don't know to even look for it, right?
Yeah.
And so you have that
He's
moment.
still he's still shackled
Mm-hmm,
to his own self-denigration.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
He hasn't yet released that, right? As much as he heals.
mm-hmm.
That's what Legba was saying to him at first. From
Right.
his own experience, he understands how that weighs on your shoulders and how it influences your interactions. So until he does that, he's just going to be laboring under this false belief that he's at fault for
Mm-hmm.
the abuse he suffered.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it, as Legba has seen some of the things he did, right? And
Yes.
that I think for him is the biggest. But of course, he made those decisions because of the situation he was in.
The context was different,
Right.
right? It doesn't mean that it was fine to do it. Just you can't think of it as though you were walking down the street and you decided, what I'm going to do? I'm going to ruin somebody's life and then go
Right.
back to work, right?
Yeah.
It's different. So,
Yeah. But sees you, embraces you. There's conversation, people checking in with you. A lot
great.
of the, in my head, it's the it's the fluff. It's the, hey, this is the information. This is what's going on, Legba is like, I imagine polite, but it's
Yes.
like
Hmm.
I have a thing I need to do right now.
He would
uh,
probably be more forthright than he. Well, let's not say he was always,
right.
let's say, uh, abrasively forthright. Forthright. He would be. He's more gentle now after a decade
Hmm.
and a lot of intentional processing of the ways he related to people. But he would be direct about his desire to converse with Jeremiah, provided that he was willing and
Right.
able to chat. And I think it is true when Legba looked at him. Legba he would see on Legba's face a look of understanding, not
Mm,
pity,
that's true.
look of
Okay.
understanding, and I think a reinforced understanding. So uh, before, Legba didn't know everything that happened to Jeremiah, right? He just assumed.
Hmm.
Legba grew, Legba spent so much time in the work camps, and he was in Haiti
Hmm.
after emancipation, after the independence of Haiti, not emancipation, independence, after the independence of Haiti, and witnessed such the brutality and participated in it, right? So he assumed, hey, something's happened to you that probably happened to me. And then he
Hmm.
saw some glimpses of that when he went with Theodosia and he went, or sorry, went with
Oh,
with
Sarah.
Abasera into Jeremiah's and Nero's, but then actually seeing the machine and him be a part of it. That is so symbolically relevant to Legba's perception of how he functioned
Mm,
as a
yeah.
unit in a machine in a
Oh, yeah.
different
Yeah.
context,
Yeah.
right?
He was another
So
cog. Sure.
yes, exactly. With being one of the boogeymen, and disappearing people, and how it led to him meeting his mentor because he was tasked with investigating him to
Yeah.
eventually betray him, and then it didn't happen, and all this stuff. His whole
Hmm.
life changed as a result. So now he feels this kinship, which he knows Jeremiah isn't going to directly understand because he doesn't have the memory of what occurred.
Hmm.
And Legba also isn't one who's given to artifice.
True.
So he wouldn't have gone up to Jeremiah and acted like he didn't know. He would he would immediately reflect on his face, like, I know some things, man. Like I got it. I saw what happened, and then he would, of course, tell him about that. So
Yeah.
we can
Uh, yeah.
pick up
So
wherever you like.
yeah, I think Jeremiah, like, there's that embrace, and then uh imagine Legba saying something along the lines of, I want to talk to Jeremiah for a minute, and everyone's like, oh, okay, yeah, glad to have you back,
Yeah.
and everybody kind of separates. It's evening. Some folk are having dinner, some folks are headed to bed anyways. There's, some folks who will stay up and enjoy the cool summer air, compared to being out during the day. And Jeremiah, seems a little nervous, but he's like, yeah, let's talk, because he's like,
Yeah.
you disappeared for 2 weeks and now come back. It's like, whoa,
Mhm.
what'd you find out? But
Yeah.
he's nods and he's like, well, yeah, let's walk and talk. Let me show you where we've started to build, um and kind of like, you can see there's that moment of pride, right? And
Yeah.
the
Great.
two of you walk, side by side along the dirt path that is continually getting, it's a little bit wider, a little bit more set. I don't think
Hmm.
anybody's coming out to pave this. I don't think, especially over here amongst Les Enfants, nobody's putting up fences, right? You might
Yeah.
have a set of fences for some goats, right, or some
Yes.
sheep or
Hmm.
something like that, but
You don't want
nobody's
the
putting
goats
up
to
fences.
run away, but
Right, you're not putting up the fences between each others. The
no.
way
Yeah.
lays on fun, the foundation of them, no, that doesn't fly for us. But you do
Yeah.
have
Absolutely.
these pathways that kind of divvy up stuff, and he walks with you, and you get to a new track, right, that's walking along. And as he's walking, you can see it in the distance, especially with the uh inward outward eye. You can
Mhm.
see there is some stakes in the ground and some string, and they're marking out, what will eventually be, a small home, right?
Ooh.
Definitely, like,
Yeah.
Jeremiah's like, no, you guys have treated me well, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to give back, kind of. that's
All
that's yeah,
right.
right. That's the background that Ligma doesn't immediately necessarily have, but can figure
Yeah.
out, right? But he's
Wonderful.
walking alongside and walking out towards it, and he says, "Did you have uh, a pleasant journey?"
Hmm. It had a satisfying resolution, but much of it plagued my conscience. It was challenging in many ways. Yet, I must admit, as of late, all of my journeys have been challenging. I can't imagine I would invite into my life anymore a journey without challenge. It is only through challenge, through adversity, that we reach the places we need to be, to become different versions of ourselves, and to understand the purpose. And then he turns to Jeremiah, and with like a really meaningful expression, he says, to fully understand the purpose of each step we've taken on the journey that has led to where we are now.
And like he's like, okay, absolutely, this dude can see right through me, right? But he nods and he's like, did you ask the others who were there about what I've done?
What was done to you? Jeremiah, I wish to speak plainly to you. In a way, in the past, produced friction between myself and those I now call friends. You hate yourself. You walk in shame for the choices you made under circumstances that were brutal and horrific, as though somehow you are the one worthy of the most guilt because you chose what you chose when you should have stood tall, you should have resisted, you should have been broken. Or sorry, not shouldn't have been broken. You should not have broke under the yoke of such a terrible and onerous burden. But you didn't. You know what you did? You exhibited the humanity that still resides within your heart and soul. I give to you a wisdom it took me a long time to learn. When we are hurt, when we suffer anguish, it is only because we have virtues that are at odds with the anguish we experience. You feel guilty because you believe the choices you made are incongruous with the man you want to be. And that is a sign of honor.
He already, like, just talking about it, right, it's bringing some tears to his eyes. He's like, I just couldn't see a better way. I couldn't see another way to do it. Anything. And then you've got preachers, when we saw them talking about doing the right thing, then and you realize that he had preachers coming into the plantation,
Yep.
and Legba's knowledge of, like, oh yeah, probably some paternoster guys,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
just hammering. It's like, oh, even on the times when these men were allowing the enslaved folks to rest, the suffering continued, especially for Jeremiah.
Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he and like he's kind of pulled into himself, right? He's like, I there are things that I did to just survive, and I should have, and kind of just trailing off. But um it it does, I don't feel good about it, so I guess I can feel good about that.
Yes.
And like he's trying to work through, because he's no educational background, no philosophy, right? So he's trying to work through it, and he kind of nods. It's like, when that's, I mean, that's why at this point now you guys have walked up to the place, and he's like, that's why I'm gonna stay here, and I'm gonna build, and I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna grow things, and I'm gonna feed people.
Like
Just
the smiles.
no sugar cane. No sugar cane.
He shakes his head slowly and he puts a hand on his shoulder and he says, "Are you telling me, Jeremiah, that you who once labored in hell and walked through the waters of purgatory to reach here, you're planning to stay and make this heaven on earth? Or at least, perhaps, make it better than it is
he
now?"
like when you say it out loud like that, right? And he kind of
Mm.
beams up and he's like, that is a really nice way of saying that. Yeah. There's some kids who don't have their parents, and I can watch after a couple of them, and well, now he like pats his leg. It's like I'm still strong, so I can do some of this. Uh, and lays on fawn, though I don't think he quite butchers the name. At 2 weeks, he's probably figured out how to pronounce it properly, as opposed to me, who I've been doing this for 2 years. Lays on fawn. Oh, hang on. If it's not in front of me, I can't ever do it.
Des champs brisés.
Jean Puisé. Yeah.
Des champs brisés.
Um, uh, and he says it with pride, right? He's realizing that like
Yeah.
this is a people that I can rally with. These are the people who are
Mhm.
looking after me. These are the people who are like me and are not enslaved, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to give back. I'm going to join them. And that will be a good thing.
Yes.
And like
It will.
he says it, he brings all that energy for it, and you can still see it. Like the weight's
Mhm.
still there. This was not like, oh, I said it and it's over, but you can see he's trying, right?
That's great. Takes time,
Oh, but yeah, this is. I wanted one. I wanted to be the farthest one out, because I want to walk. I want to be able to walk
Mm.
wherever I want. I want to walk all the way over to town. All the way over to town's a mile, right? Well, actually, out with the farms, it's probably a couple miles. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
far. You need to keep them
Uh,
separated.
mhm.
There's no point in people not having space.
Right. You have all this grounded. This side is in Native American. Um, Man, and points back over to town because you've got the farmland, and then you have Purgatory
Mhm.
Bluff up on that bridge, and so evening we've got a couple of the lights up at the tavern, up at the inn, and stuff like that. Very very picturesque picture book, especially when we
Yeah.
don't have a ton of light, modern lights, so we have all the stars
Mhm.
up there. It's like, yeah, does have a little bit of heaven on earth kind of vibes there. A couple little lights here amongst the farms. He's like, yeah, this is. I'm gonna turn this around. I'm gonna give it back. I've been taken care of, so I'm gonna take care of others. I'm gonna grow food that I can eat. I'm gonna, yeah, and like you can see, he's like, he's it. There's some effort to
Mhm.
get himself riled up for it, but yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
this is what I'm gonna do, and it's a goal, and it keeps me from thinking about the past, right?
Yeah. He
Uh,
says, so Legba says, "Mm, you have my support in any way you need. I would like to suggest something that I think will aid you. Because one of the most terrific things visited upon our people, those of our skin, is the absence of the written word. It is not because that which is written has greater meaning than that which is spoken. It is that when we only have that which we can produce with our mouths, and we cannot consume that which is left on paper, it means that we are prevented from having access to the perspectives and experiences of others in other places, in other times. I wish for you to do something which may be hard for you, but I believe which may bring your life great purpose. And it is also an activity that is not connected to your past, but I hope will be connected to your future. I wish for you to learn to read.
And he brightens up and smiles because I'm imagine Les Enfants teach it, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Now, here's one of them good. Hey, Ralph, does Les Enfants have their own school? Especially as they've started, you've got a decade here, so we've had 10 years of
That's a
kids,
good question. I didn't even think
or
about that. No, I think it's partially it. I mean, cultural indoctrination is so important around the world and every
Mhm,
people, right? So what I mean by that specifically is it is really important for kids to learn their own traditions
right.
and also be exposed to the traditions of the kids around them.
Mhm,
So I think from the very beginning, right, even before Mambo Etoile got in charge and then started making choices that were similar to what Legba did. Legba was like, we're here, we have to be a part of the town. But
mhm.
Legba was like, we're going to smash ourselves against the side and then it's just going to merge over time. And I imagine that Mambo Etoile has been a little more gentle about that
Mhm.
process, right?
Right.
So I would not surprise me, or rather, I would expect that all of the kids are going to the school
Mhm,
so that all kids in town go to the same school so that all kids see all other kids
mhm.
and they have that experience.
Yeah.
They also have Sunday school,
Right.
you know.
Yep.
So they're learning about the traditions, they're learning about Vodun, they're learning about religion, they're learning about all these things. So in addition to going to church, the kids in Les Enfants, they're doing it twice.
Right. I also just now realized because we talked previously about like the church events, and I'm sure Les
Yes,
Enfants go to
totally.
church, but I also realized that there's probably some voodoo festivals and stuff
Oh yeah.
that
Hmm.
Purgatory Bluff, like especially once Les Enfants got out into the farms, and they're like, we have so
Oh
much more
yeah.
space out here, and it was one of those
Hmm.
like, hey, letting you know we're having a shindig,
Yeah.
y'all should come.
That's
and
right.
like
That's right.
and like no prep, no warning. And so of course, a bunch of these folks are like, there's a party,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll come on down.
Uh-huh.
What is happening here?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
now we're a decade later, and yes, there's absolutely going to be some fuddy-duddies who stay home, and we stay up in Purgatory Bluff, and we don't go down to that festival. And there's probably some farmers who we don't get involved in that, but there's
Yeah, to
probably
get the preferences.
right. And but you've got a lot of folks who are just like, bro, like nobody, like the Protestants, when the Catholics are over there celebrating a Saint's Day, you better believe the
Mhm.
Protestants get their butts over and they go over,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
it's another holiday, it's another
Yeah.
chance to gather and do stuff. And this is of course pre-weekend concept, so
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday was just another day that you worked. Sunday you might not work the whole day. um and so having a Saint's Day or any of those kind of chances to festival and party and hang out and celebrate, or just
Mhm.
relax,
Yeah.
sure, we'll sign up, and now I'm imagining we have the Catholic priest, we have the Protestant pastor, and we have Madame Etoile getting together with
Yeah.
the calendar
Yeah.
in the tavern and just going over. Okay, no, we're gonna have to move yours. We got to move yours out a week, otherwise we're doing them back to back, and none of us can do back to back weeks like that. We can't. So yeah, yeah, that's true. Purgatory Bluff, like pre New Orleans, we got parties, man. Every
Yeah.
weekend
It's
we got
happening.
yeah.
It's a good
I
time.
literally hadn't thought about it. It's like, yeah, we have a whole third culture plus a little bit of some Haitian holidays.
Mhm.
That's like,
Yep.
yeah, we're gonna celebrate this. Yeah, because Independence Day, Haitian Independence
Yeah.
Day. Yeah, we're out here,
Mhm.
and some of the Americans are probably celebrating July 4th.
Yeah.
And Haitians are like, hey, yeah, I got an idea.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yep.
well, we're not on American soil. We're not, yeah, okay, no, might as well. Everybody celebrate.
Mhm. Makes sense.
Yeah, so I like that. But yeah, so
Fantastic.
for Jeremiah, yeah, he's nodding. He's like, yeah, I talked to uh probably calls him Mr. Lamb, Jules,
Mhm.
and says
Mhm. Yep.
about about learning and coming to the class and stuff like that. And he said that it probably wouldn't be good for me to go to the class, but there's others, and yeah, we're getting together, and we're gonna study together and learn together and stuff like that. So
Great.
yeah, not Jeremiah, grown man at school with kids, acting up, but
Mhm.
yeah, effectively night school, right?
Yeah.
Between Helena handling the actual kid age stuff a lot, Jules currently helping because everybody Helena was gone. But it's like,
Yep.
we have we have a couple people who can teach. Even I
Hmm.
bet Anastasio
Oh yeah,
probably gets in
totally.
on that because he's like, yeah, reading English I'm not super great with, but I can teach you Spanish and I can teach you
Hmm.
numbers,
Hmm.
and like math. And so yeah, I imagine there's a couple of those. Happy Pride Month, all these allies, right, who are like, oh yeah, we can help. Yeah, you have interest in that? Yeah, we can show you. And just these local experts who again, like, you want to learn something? Sure, we'll teach you. It started with the farming, right? Well,
Yeah.
actually, started with the mining
Yeah. Hmm.
and then the farming, which some of the Haitians, I don't know why I keep saying Haitians, but well, I know I'm saying it. It's because some folks have stepped away from Les Enfants.
Hmm. Yep.
But yeah, have a background, many of them in farming. So yeah, there's all these different experts, all these different people. It's like, yeah, you want to learn that? Sure, come apprentice with me for a little while. I could use the help. I'll pay you for the day. I'll feed you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's one of those aspects that I hadn't thought about, melting pot, right? And everybody kind
Mm-hmm.
of coming together. So, but yeah, Jeremiah is like, yeah, no, I want to learn. I want to learn to read, so that way I can write down my story, our story.
Mm.
I think is probably what he says, our story, um, because otherwise, because he's like, otherwise nobody's going to believe it. Jeremiah, if they read the story, doesn't necessarily mean that they'll believe it, but it's that idea of I'm going to put it
Yeah.
down, and if it's
Hmm.
put down, if it's written down, then it's more likely to be real.
Hmm. Yeah.
And he's like that because nobody's going to believe. Nobody's going to believe we're in the plantation. I don't. Well, he probably knows he was in Louisiana, but we were in Louisiana, and now
Yeah.
we're
Nobody's hide that from them, right?
right.
Like that was the
Hmm.
whole point of sorry, excuse me. That was the whole point of Legba developing his legacy, right?
Right.
Like it led to this point. This was it. He
Hmm.
did this so that he could aid Les Enfants in actually achieving their mission.
Yeah. So yeah, I was in Louisiana. Now I'm in uh, the Colorado territory, and free,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
with a home, with friends, and like grabs your arm,
Yeah.
um, and we can move from what we were and where we were.
Yes. As long as you remember that there are parts of you that you should retain.
All the good parts.
It was always a good part, Jeremiah. For me, for you. You were not the bad part. The circumstances were bad. You were never bad.
Yeah, that's right.
He
Like, and
says,
he's
even good people learn to be good by learning that they should not have done bad things that they regret.
I can try to do that.
You already are.
Like you can see like there's tons of emotions that he's juggling.
Yeah.
Like it's been 2 weeks, but even then, 2 weeks versus, well, for him it's probably been
Look,
about a
for
month
5 years, he's been brutalized his whole life, right? So, I mean, like people don't recover from this stuff very quickly.
now.
So, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
2 weeks is not a long enough time for him to somehow be just fine, right?
Yeah.
Like he has complex PTSD from being heavily brutalized
Yep.
over the course of decades, and oftentimes people do not recover from that well without professional assistance, just because it is so challenging to interpret the significance of your experiences, and as exhibited by both Legba's struggles and Jeremiah's, moderate the degree of self-recrimination as you're trying to heal.
Right.
Keep making it worse.
Right. Yeah.
So 2 weeks? Yeah, come on. I mean, he's probably, my leg feels good. I feel immediately safe. I'm also
Yes.
already a little inured to stuff, so I'm able to keep a better face upon this. But no way he's just
No.
A-okay.
Right. Yeah. But he's putting on that face and he's trying, and the like, somebody has come to me and said, yes, you did terrible things, but that doesn't make you a terrible person. And
Yeah.
like that, because let's be honest, Blazon Fawn probably let people talk about whatever they wanted to talk about if somebody needed an ear. Jeremiah is not coming to talk about this stuff. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of the other folks who are now emancipated, talking about the abuse and the work and stuff like that. But Jeremiah had this laser focus of, we're going to make your life suffer, make your life suffering, and make you do things that just absolutely ruin who
Yeah.
you are. Dude, for lack of for the meta knowledge, right? He has like an integrity of like 2, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's way down,
Mhm.
breaking point after breaking point after breaking point
Yeah.
to get him to
We
where
saw
he
we
was.
saw his demon.
Yeah.
Demon is this grotesquerie.
Yep. Yep. So, um, with that, he kind of like pats her shoulder and like stands awkwardly for a second and then says, "Thank you for walking me home." And like looking over but he has a tent set up, right?
That's great.
Like
Yeah.
he has his spot. He's like, and then like pats it, and then he's like, "But I'm gonna walk back." Like, I'm not.
Yes. Yeah.
And he walks back to, I think actually he probably walks all the way over to the tavern, right?
Why
Like,
not?
just
Mhm.
because even if probably doesn't have money to spend, sure.
Not yet.
Madam, and these NPCs, there's too many of them. Robert, probably, yeah, there's a mug that appears on his table. We don't talk about it, we
Yeah.
don't ask questions, right?
Mhm.
But just being there in a positive environment, there's music being played,
Mhm.
and it's just like, it's something that, and other members of Liaison Fawn go and stuff like that. So it's just like, and it's a social place, and he just sits and watches.
That's great.
And some people probably talk to him too. But yeah,
Mhm.
cool. Anything else with Jeremiah at the moment?
No, that's what he wanted to say to Jeremiah.
Yeah.
He wanted to come back and be like, let him know. I know. And now I don't just suspect what happened to you.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm going to repeat what I told you before, which is, you are a good person. You made bad choices. It's okay to make bad choices. It doesn't mean you have to keep making bad choices.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah. Checking in with Madame Etoile, Mambo Etoile,
Mhm.
mixing
Yeah.
up NPCs now. Yeah,
Okay.
nothing specific of note.
Mhm.
Everything has been well. Checking in with you,
Great.
because you guys left in a hurry, right?
Yep. Mhm.
And so just doesn't pry, like Bashir stuff when it's relevant to people, but checks in on you. Uh, something there. Oh well, whatever it was, it disappeared. But yeah, checks in, make sure you're good, everything good, cool.
Mhm.
Then I guess probably,
I have
well,
plans.
yeah, go ahead.
There's of course going to be a scene where but briefly engages with the dogs, or rather, a
Yep.
brief scene. Not that he engages with the dogs briefly, but
Mhm.
returns to the dogs. Um, and if there are more dogs, that might be cool. Maybe like Jules liked the dogs or something like that, but that's not necessary to happen. But the reason why he would be there is that would, of course, that's the moment where he steps away, right?
Mhm.
Like, he is cloak, but he is that's really the only context nowadays where he is taking off his hat,
Mhm.
right? Even if he is stepping away from his shadow name, he still has responsibilities and roles.
Right.
So this naked, unguarded version of himself is only really seen when he's sitting on the ground sharing oily meat with feral dogs. Because of
Feral
course,
at this point.
feral, exactly, right? Like, I mean, like the perception of them being dangerous is the thing
Mhm.
he really relates to, right?
That's
Like
true.
their claws and the snarling and the being wild and the apparent threat that people derive from them is
Right.
a result of a misinterpretation of behavior. Now, I'm not saying any of us in real life should just go running around with wild dogs, right?
Yeah,
Like
don't do
they're going to
that,
bite
kids.
you. No, or wolves, right? But but their behavior is always a consequence of choices they're making in the moment. And oftentimes, when we experience injury, it's a result of a misunderstanding of that and engaging them in a way we shouldn't have, as
Right.
opposed to them just being crazy.
Right.
So when he's sitting there, he's like, I can just be a living being with other living beings that have also been misunderstood for our willingness to engage in violence.
Hmm.
And that's when he's going to actually think more about what happened and his resolution now not to do it. So
Hmm.
that's what I want to paint is like the scene when he's going to go through a conversation with his demon to actually
Oh yeah,
understand what happened. So,
I like that. Yeah, especially for somebody like Legba with the skills and the comfort of just dropping into your own Eros. Because you don't even meditate anymore. You just walk back from the Temenos in your astral
yeah.
self.
Hmm.
And yeah, did you want to have that scene?
Yeah,
Okay,
it
yeah.
doesn't have to be long because I do want to do a lot of Metropolis stuff. And there's a reason why I want to have this scene because it'll then earmark a mechanical change that we can make. But we can talk
Okay,
about that after the recording briefly,
sure.
or before Friday's session,
Yeah.
however you want to do it. But I do want to there be some kind of narrative anchor for
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
change.
No, that's good. So yeah, we drop into the news. Which does it still? Does your landing in the Onira still look like the
Or
port?
yeah, it does. Yeah, it does, but it's developed now. So
Okay,
instead of it looking like a place you leave from, it now also looks like a place you go to.
I like that. Yeah, there's the buildings beyond are not warehouses and docks, but there's
Yes.
taverns and there's sounds. Yeah, okay, I dig that. Yep, yep, yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and of course here you are a welcome visitor, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Way back when Cloak was Cloak, right?
Yep.
Everything was like, this is weird, not super engaged, not in a good relationship with your daemon. I mean, differently than Baba Sarah and her daemon.
Of course, yes.
But yeah, and here you arrive, and yeah, I don't think people, suddenly stop and shout, but you have the
Legba,
well, yeah,
yeah.
that might be actually more appropriate. The cheers, you walk in and people, know your name is probably appropriate,
Yeah.
but it's not like people walk in and oh, your holiness, right?
Yes,
You're
yes,
not,
absolutely not.
yeah, you're not some exalted being here, but yeah, everyone's like, oh,
No.
we know who you are, like,
Yeah. Hmm.
as you pass by goetic actors,
Yeah.
and you are almost immediately joined by your daemon, just
Great.
matching
Fantastic.
step by step. I
Wonderful.
for some reason I have in my head that she has dressed in like um uh how do I want to describe it? Modern ship captain attire.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Jaunty little tricorn hat, all that.
Fantastic.
And
Yeah.
just step by step is like, where are we going?
Hmm. Hmm. Let's go to where it all began. Excuse me. That wasn't Legba's voice. Spoke as me, I forgot. Mm. I wish to go to where it all began.
She makes a face. She goes like, "Listen,
He smiles and he says, I'm just joking. Uh, year 11,
ah,
when I first learned the taste of blood.
well, it looks funny now." Um, and you guys walk together to your memories, right? And specifically that first scene, that first event, um, and it is well, actually, I think the way Legba might perceive it is this is how dogs see. This is their perspective. It is grayscale,
Ooh,
right? Like the
cool.
color
Yeah.
is strained out. There's still some color because dogs do see color. It's not all black and white. Kids ignore what the TV
Hmm.
tells you, but it's just these muted colors and only some. But
Yeah.
it's just this kind of drained
Ooh, I like
sensation,
that.
and like
Yeah.
you're kind of withdrawn
Washed
from it,
out.
save for the blood, and which looks
Ah,
bright and garish and like,
Oh,
and yeah,
fantastic.
the daemon looks at you and says, "Yeah, like it's still here. All the details are here, but it looks different now."
It's
And
more horrific.
yeah, yeah, and kind of walks over and like just touches her foot and just kind of smears a little bit of blood across the floor. Do you have a specific scene of what this was?
Yeah. This is there's a well, I want to describe it vaguely. One, because of the often stated um line for bad things happening to kids or minors, right? But Legba got into a confrontation with someone who was older than him.
Mm,
And Legba, when he was young, well, he's as we have explored, right? He's a very emotional guy,
hmm.
but the way he kind of channeled that was, I'm just going to browbeat people
Right.
into not asking me about my feelings. So, as much as it's a stereotype, right? Like
Hmm.
in Legba's case, it was uh, really a consequence of a very developed experience in a brutal regime. But
Right.
anyway, so there's a kid who's 15 who's has a reputation for being a bully and getting his way, and he had taken something from Legba once, and that was like months prior. And this day, like Legba had gotten something small, like a little trinket, a toy. Let's see, what would it be? It would be a boat. He'd gotten a carved wooden boat
Hmm.
from like a nice guy who whittles.
Sure.
And this kid came up and took it and taunted Legba and then snapped it in half.
Oh, yeah. Didn't even keep
Yep.
it. Rude.
No, no. And Legba jumped on him and left him on the ground
Right.
in a bad state. So
Yeah. Also, just for context and to
yes.
adjust flavor a little bit, Jean Paul did this.
Yes, that's right. Sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
not
Yep.
Legba.
Yeah.
God, just in the
I
mode.
know.
Yes.
It's a name we
Yes,
haven't used in a
absolutely.
while, but
Yes,
yes,
that's
Jean.
that's right because he stepped away from it. Yeah, but Jean
Yep.
Paul did this, so
Yep.
absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, and I imagine it's a moment frozen in time, right? And
Mhm.
it's not, ages ago, it was, I wouldn't say it was a proud moment, but it was clearly, what do they call it?
Triumphant. It was certainly
That's
triumphant
true.
for him
That's
as an
very true.
11-year
Yeah.
old, right?
Yeah.
What is he thinking? He's not thinking it's going to lead to a life of deliberate brutality. He's like,
Hmm.
this kid did bad things to me. I'm a kid. He broke my toy. It's not fair. He's always being mean to people. I gave you a taste of your own medicine.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, oh man. So yeah, it is a core memory, and it was this triumphant thing for the longest
Yeah.
time, and that even
Yes.
probably became cloak, and it was probably still a thing that you were proud of because you'd beaten up a
Yes.
bully, and
Yeah, totally.
now we have it, and I mean, it's still a core memory. It's still important, but you have this separation from it,
Hmm.
and now it's taken on this whole different cast. I like that. I was thinking of this tableau being something that because of the disconnect, but
Oh, yeah.
I like this in reverse. It looks this way now because we're disconnected and we're like, oh, this was terrible. This
Yeah.
was messed up. Yeah. And so yeah, your Damon there, foot through some of the mud and blood and
Hmm.
the smearing it about. Yeah, this yeah, things have changed because of this.
Yeah, they have. At the time, I didn't think of what it must have been like for him.
Hmm.
And then brings up his hand to his face because that's when he got his first scar. He has the scars all over his body.
Hmm.
And he did get a scar from that because, I mean, it's bigger than him, right?
Right.
And scars fade as you age.
Hmm.
But this was down the side of his face and it's lingered.
Hmm.
Got faint, but was still distinct enough for him to recognize it clearly
Right.
as the remnant of an injury rather than some wrinkle or a beauty or something. So he touches it kind of absentmindedly. I think it actually mirroring um, that version of him touching
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And he says, this was the beginning of a decline. At the time, I thought it was the beginning of me claiming power for myself. I realized instead it was the beginning of me taking power away from others.
And you see the daemon start to say something, and then just kind of sits back a little bit. Suddenly has a Legba cane of her own, kind of
Cool.
and motions at you, because she is not Legba, right?
Yeah.
She's
Hmm.
Legba's daemon, right?
Yep.
But there's always been this taunting is a bad word, but yeah, there's that playful
Yeah.
jibe to try and get him. And like she starts to say something, it's like, oh wait, no, he's onto something, hang on. And kind of leans back and motions for you to continue, just with this smile. His pride, she gets to get away with it because she's being proud of you, not herself.
Yes.
But she's like, yep, I've been working in the background here.
I've been working on this for years, everybody.
Yep.
Right? Like if she were to walk around, we're like, yeah, you're impressed about this? Yeah, I've been working on this guy forever.
Yep. But yeah, motions for you to continue.
So he says, I think it was the only time I ever committed violence without having the forethought of wanting somebody. Well, I mean, without having the forethought. Yeah. I think it was the only time I've ever committed violence um, without having the plan to fight someone before the fight occurred.
Mm-hmm.
There are other ways to solve conflict. I realize now that as much as I've grown in the 10 years and formed connections and related to people in ways that are less abrasive, I've still been reluctant to do what comes after that, which is to start relationships from a position of kindness or mutual respect. Even the relationships in Metropolis are transactional at first. I offer something, I want something. Here are the terms of our interaction. In the event that you satisfy certain criteria, then I'll spend more time with you and eventually deem you satisfactory or some facsimile of friendship. I think I just need to make friends. And then he holds up a hand and he says, that aren't dogs enjoying meat with me outside my house.
You have friends. You may have started rough, but you have friends.
I'm not saying they are my friends. What I mean is, I think I need to go through the motions of making new friendships with people from whom I have nothing to gain other than being a human being with them.
I like that. I like new people.
But for now, we need to resolve what is a real challenge. It was convenient that seeking Sophia, however challenging it is and has been to maintain, I could still rely on the force of my body in the event that words failed. That is no longer an option for me. I will need to think long and hard about what steps I'm willing to take to stop what must be stopped, to stop what we saw in the maelstrom.
Which thing in the maelstrom?
He mimics her.
Yep.
You with your demon, right? Right after she does the motion, he in the same way does it, right? He says, I think I would like to expand the legacy. I think I finally realized why and how.
Well,
I
that's
think
news to me.
it just occurred to me now.
I'll probably catch up here in a second.
He says, I think if there are others who open gates in both the literal and the figurative sense, and there are others who wish to guide people from a place. No, he says, from a hellish place to one that is more heavenly. That will be a good I can do.
And it's not like Salazar. I mean, there's dangerous things someone could do with these gifts, but it's not.
Yes.
It's not Petrichor and the Tempestari throwing lightning.
Yes. I will want to work with you on how to make it a requirement that those I'm bringing under my tutelage are themselves also guiding someone.
Oh, that feels...
Not to seek wisdom.
Only take an apprentice who has an apprentice?
Yes, but not an arcane apprentice.
Oh, okay, this makes much more sense. A leader.
Oh, yes.
Mambo, Ungar.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They must be, through their own blood, sweat, and tears, trying to pour life in others. Perhaps, ideally, those who haven't got such attentions before.
So not even leaders, teachers.
Yes, caretakers, teachers. I will teach the teachers. Or rather, I will walk with the teachers. Give them another way to walk to others that they can teach.
I like that. It says Drew and your Damon.
Awesome.
Yeah. We'll probably have to throw our net really wide out of purgatory, but Metropolis is
Indeed.
loads of people who are like-minded to us, travelers and
Indeed.
walkers, and we just gotta just have to find the right teachers and guides.
Yes.
No Sears though. They have to teach
He
the
laughs.
good things.
He laughs. And he says, of course.
Just had to say it. Had to be said.
I think there will be other requirements as well. Because what we're offering is precious. We do not want it to be perverted. That's what Petrichor is dealing with right now. The perceived perversion.
You both have like that shared shiver of disgust.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure she is dealing with it in a explosive,
idiosyncratic way.
If you haven't seen the episode, folks at home, you should. It was pretty good.
And so he says, speaking of Metropolis.
Oh, what? This is just come in, visit, and then leave?
You're coming with me.
Oh, I don't like doing that. It feels weird.
And he says, come on. I always have to come and visit you. Why can't you come with me to the places I like to walk?
And so long as you make me your familiar with that, fine. Or actually, it wouldn't even be a familiar because she's too high rank for that. But yeah, as long as you are be open or resonant, I can't remember the right condition, but then fine.
Done.
Actually, point of order, wouldn't you probably always be resonant to your daemon?
I would think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. So that's fine. Okay. She's like, do you know the looks I get when they see a daemon walking around? Like,
why don't you disguise yourself? And then he looks kind of teasing, like, why don't you disguise yourself, right? Like,
As she looks at you, the man who cannot lie.
yes.
And she just like, yeah. And it's here I can do this. Out there I can't. I don't
Mhm.
have all power. I'm just me. But yes, yeah. Let's go to Metropolis. Because in my mind, you two have definitely done this before. Like
Yeah.
for all
First one
her.
might have been risky, but he was like, look, I want to try something.
Mhm.
We got to see if this works.
Yep.
Okay, got to see if it's fine. She's like,
And-
why would you do that?
Right.
Mhm.
And she is part of you. The idea of exploring and going and seeing is like, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to go poke in at the memory Goetia, but then for her
Mhm.
personally, as an entity, above rank 2, you have
Yeah.
cognizance.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, fine. I'll find something to put on. But with that, the two of you are walking the road to
Right.
to the Temenos, straight to Metropolis, because at this point
At
that
this
is a
point.
well-trodden road for you.
Yeah.
Well trod,
And it's-
trod.
Well trodden, and the status and all that. Right.
Mhm.
I imagine it made it a little easier for him as well to have a corridor of his own. Like, this is the path that Legba walks into Metropolis. Metropolis recognizes it. It's not just him, being a skillful traveler of the astral, but he's like, this is the route. This is the Legba route.
So not from the Oneros into the Temenos, which happens to drop into the Metropolis, but from the Oneros to Metropolis.
Yes, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
You hop on a train. You hop on a train.
There you go. Perfect. Yes.
The two of you, find a nice little train. You're the nice little seat. You're the only people on the train, and just whoosh cross the border from Oneros into Temenos and pull into that cacophony of a Grand Central Station, and step out. And she looks different. She looks like your sister.
Cool.
Right. She looks like the two of you standing next to each other, very clearly related. She also looks similar to Papa Legba, right?
Oh, fantastic.
She, there is no affectation of walking with a limp. She has a limp. She walks with a cane.
Cool.
Like,
yeah.
And it's one of those things that nobody would ever mistake her like you as Legba. Mm-hmm. She is female. She probably has a different style hat. The clothing is more feminine.
Yeah,
but especially actually the pair of you walking together, it's that like, yes, Legba, but if female. Right. And then facial structure being very similar. And walks with you and kind of leans and it is nice being here. But it feels. I wonder if it feels like if you couldn't use magic. Like I
remember what that was like.
I remember you remembering not. But yeah, it's like that. But that's how you were. Now imagine you now and not being able to. And she kind of shivers. She's like, never mind, that's a terrible thought. And little tap of her cane against your foot and says, you have a plan. Lead on.
I do. So the first thing Legba does is, as he goes in every time, right, is he greets any of the city guides that he knows, right? Out of respect, courtesy, and also a matter of maintaining the professional relationship, right?
Yeah.
Not just I know you, so I say hi, but also I want you to lead people to me, so I need to stay in touch with you and exchange, the currency, right? Like you can't just.
It's a step above. It's professional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he does that, and then he'll go to. I'd like to think at this point he has these conversations in some version of an amphitheater, because I
Oh,
like
okay.
the kind of anachronistic comparison with the development of Metropolis, right? Like
Hmm.
Metropolis is the city, the city, and the Uber city, right? It is all cities that are happening, right? Present. Um, and prior to the modern metropolis, right? Like we think of Athens as like a center for things, right? What do
Oh,
cities
true.
represent but a connection between people of different cultures and ideas?
That's true.
So
Yeah.
I'd like,
Because go ahead.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
you were saying. I was going to say, okay. I like to think that um that um that in Athens, colonnades, the Parthenon, just Greek fixtures, uh, are a welcome contrast. Where if you were imagine you're walking past these high rises, right, or tall buildings or whatever is
Hmm.
in this time period represented in Metropolis, right? And you go down alleyways and narrow passages. Eventually, you get into a space that's open, and it seems as though there's nothing else around. You have a
Yeah.
big clearing and an amphitheater, and the sun shining, and there's trees.
Hmm.
And this, of course, doesn't make any
It's
sense, but
quieter.
yes,
Yeah.
it's quieter. It represents something. It isn't physically that. But here in Metropolis, which is so focused on the astral representations of physical objects in a an accurate way as possible, you have this absurd projection of a calm, uh, less bustling and dense area right in the middle.
I like that. And it is Metropolis. So it's not
Yes.
always historically accurate. So
Of
as
course,
you are
yeah.
walking through, you also have some odd things like the thermopolium, if you're familiar with
Oh, yeah.
those.
Yeah,
And
mhm,
so you
cool.
have fast food, but
Yeah,
ancient Roman style.
yeah.
But like you have here and there, you have some Goetia who are in a modern 18, 57. I couldn't remember what year we were,
Mhm,
businessman with his bag of tools or, his ledgers, sat down and
yes,
sitting and eating alongside some other Goetia,
yeah,
being served by a man in, it wouldn't even be a full toga because that's the,
mhm,
the higher up Romans, but, a wrap or, something or tunic. That's what they'd probably be wearing. It's just like,
yeah,
oh, right, yep. Not actually in ancient Greece, but
yeah.
the environment looks right. And of course, you've got Goetia passing back and forth. You have mages walking back and forth. But yeah, I like that. Yeah. And so that the regular meeting of people who want to summon other kind of supernal beings.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Hey, we're going to now convene the meeting of those who want to accomplish something that should be able to happen technically, but doesn't make any sense. I have some news to share.
I like that. Yeah. And I imagine just the nature of Metropolis, and some of it is also because it is dramatically appropriate. So of course tonight is a meeting,
Hmm.
but they, and it is a smattering of people because you have mages in their various astral selves, which range from the more mundane, to be fair, Papa Legba, to some of
Hmm.
the more, fantastical, and then you have some Goetia of of scholars and
Oh, yeah.
thinkers, right?
That's
Who
great.
were just like, yeah, oh hey, this gathering is
Hmm.
particularly resonant to me. So they come around and
Mm.
hang out, and you have some of them who have been around for some of these meetings who are able to discuss some things as um external observers of stuff, and then you have some others who are new, who are just writing down notes as vigorously as possible, keeping meeting minutes as they're trying to get caught up and they're trying to figure out
That's
what the heck
great.
this is.
Hmm.
Some of them struggling because occasionally, when you guys have communication issues, you switch to high speech, and some of them,
Yes,
wait,
absolutely.
hang on, somebody
Yeah.
put that in Greek. Okay, thank you. And so, like, I imagine this is just it is proto-free council, right? It is
Yeah.
this
Yep. That's what I'm
hodgepodge of
going for.
people who
Thank you.
got together,
Mhm.
and and everybody is interested in the same thing. They're coming at it from different angles. They have different reasons for it, but they're all trying for the same thing. And yeah, you have the cheers moment of Legba, we
Yeah.
and Ibol, I imagine, is one of those people who are an
Of
outside
course.
observer.
Absolutely. Yes.
He's like, I'm a sorcerer. I don't know what you're talking about with these supernal beings, but this sounds really interesting.
I also have a very functional brain.
Right.
So doesn't mean I can't participate in your conversation, even if I can accomplish the end you seek.
Yes. And so yeah, they we haven't seen you. You missed last week's meeting. Glad to see you're not dead. And that kind of welcoming, and compared to with Liaison Fawn, where it is like, here's the elder come, here is an equal. We are all like, we're all on the same page, because none of us know anything. We're all trying to figure this out, and you show up with, like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Like, let me tell you guys.
Hey,
so yeah, go ahead,
what?
go from there.
All right, sounds good. So he comes in, greets everybody, glad tidings and stuff like this, and he reminds everybody, his daemon introduces, and says, I wish to share with you what is perhaps a minor triumph, but might aid us in eventually accomplishing what we aim for. And he shares his encounter with Broken Time. And he says, I asked this question quite specifically, especially because I believe that their answers, however confusing, are, at least in this way, devoid of duplicity. As much as he holds his finger, he says, we will come to an ancillary point where I believe they're capable of that in a way that some don't recognize. But in this context, I asked, in the time that Broken Time is witnessed, is there any demonstration that this is not possible? And they demurred.
There's a bit of translation. Some synonyms are thrown in to help explain, and then there's like, and so somebody shouts, so you're saying there's a chance?
Easy, like, will pump his fist. Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. I said this to my compatriots, and they looked at me with eyes of disbelief.
Yep.
And I clung to it. A dog on a bone. No, that's not what you'd say. He'd say, oh, this is what he says. He says, I clung to it like a shipwrecked sailor finding a piece of driftwood. When before we were just treading water, hoping that perhaps we would keep ourselves there, breathing the air until we could step into the boat and get to land. I have found the first piece of driftwood. I have found it. There is a chance.
Somebody asks, so where was this Broken Time supernal being that you met?
You see, like, with scrunch up his face in a way that's kind of like modern. It was in a secret emanation realm.
And like immediate groans of like, we know we can't ask, we can't go there, we can't verify, but you really, they really said this was like a being who has knowledge of such things.
He pauses and he says, for the sake of utmost clarity, I will give you a sanitized perfect recapitulation. There we go. I was just forgetting a syllable. I will give you a sanitized perfect recapitulation of the event as it was from my experience. And he snaps his finger and creates this tableau that is kind of weirdly two-dimensional, right? Like you would imagine a projector, on the wall, right? And it doesn't have any of like the background details. So it'd be like if somebody took a video and then they were like, Photoshop for getting out stuff to make it clear. And there's just like, go ahead. You got an idea? Great. Let's see this.
It is a Roman mural.
Yes. Oh, great. Perfect.
Right. Where they have just
Yes.
the kind of very flat
Yes.
backgrounds and we have characters.
Yes, exactly. Wonderful. Perfect. Yeah. So that's there. And it's moving a little bit. Right. And there's Legba in like Hellenic art style, right? With the hat and all that stuff.
Yep.
Like interacting with Broken Time, but Broken Time isn't represented the way Broken Time represented themselves to us when we saw them. Broken Time looks like a broken sundial instead of an hourglass or anything like that.
Yep.
Just as though he's, interacting there. And he provides them with the information that way.
So everyone's watching and wrapped, and then it ends because, of course, you're giving this short little brief, and they're like, "That was it? You didn't ask any other questions?"
Yes, he said that was the only question I could ask that way because there was a price to pay for answers.
Another communal and this time more understanding groan of yeah. Yep. But after that, there's the I almost said begrudging, but no, there's the honest applause of okay, yes, this was good. It's not what we wanted,
yes,
but it was something in the right direction. Okay, yeah, thank you. All right, well, take a seat. We've got some ideas, and you guys continue on with the meeting. Somebody brings up the idea. Well, let's summon Broken Time, and you're like, no, that's a bad idea.
That's great, though. Somebody would say that, and it's a smart idea, right? Well, look, okay, fair enough. We can't go there, and I can't ask you questions. But what if we talk to them specifically in the context of our interactions? How about that? No, you're gonna lose something.
It's a ranked 6 summon. You're not pulling that off. Talk to your Archmage supporter or patron for that kind of stuff. And of course, the Archmages are like, lol, I'm not helping you with this. I'm not getting involved.
As much as I think it's a kind of vulgar and also silly thing, I bet Archmages are making that jerk off motion when young lower tier mages are asking questions like this. Like, you care about that? Get out of here with that.
You just go to the supernal and talk to him, man.
Why do you summon?
Just go visit. It's so much more polite.
Walk down the street. Why are you calling your friend in the next room, you lazy ass?
And suddenly Legba's very, very good meeting turns into a Reddit discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so the information is passed around. There's some additional retellings to clarify for folks due to language barrier. Actually, no.
Yes.
Your presence handles that. Yep. They're like, oh yes, Legba's here. We don't have to do this
finally
crap anymore.
Oh my god. It was nice and we had forgotten. Oh my gosh. Yes. You refuse to learn French. I imagine there's one of them like going in on one of the members like, why? You could just learn it immediately. You're a Mastigos. I know it. And you just refuse. Yeah. And then he's like sitting back like, yeah, I do. Fuck you. That's why.
Yeah. I'm English. Why would I learn French?
Yeah. Why would I do that?
And again, it becomes a Reddit meeting. Yes. Lord. Cool. Any other major data points to drop there?
No, he's not going to tell them about the resolution about the legacy yet until he and his daemon have decided. And of course, you and I decide exactly how we want that to look.
Do we bring up Ahibahu?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because Legba said he was going to make it clear he needs to make it clear to everybody that he and the Coven did this, their cabal did this. So he says, perhaps at the close of the meeting, he says, I also wish to share one other thing.
Yeah, that's true, because it's tangential. I don't want to distract the meeting. I'm going to bring this up at the end. I like that.
Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, this is the end of the meeting. Any other further business, right? And he's like, yes, I wish to share. On our trip to this place, we encountered a mage who was doing horrid things, left-handed. Well, actually, would it use the word left-handed? Because that's like a diamond order thing. Or the diamonds.
Even
That's
the
a diamond
Seers do
thing.
it. Even the Seers refer to
Really?
things being
Okay, so
left-handed.
all right, fair enough. I just wanted to make
It is
sure
kind
that
of
that was
common
like a
common
okay.
terms. Yeah.
He said, doing the most left-handed things I've ever seen a mage do. I can't imagine there's something worse than this. And he says, it took me a long time to find and identify who he was. Have any of you heard of? And he's going to be looking very carefully at people. Hey, sorry, he says, have any of you heard of the Tower of the Eater of Supernal Beings?
And like there is a unanimous like revulsion lean back of like whoa that, and somebody says that's not a real thing. There's no way that's a real thing.
Like says, regretfully, it was a real thing. According to Broken Time. Well, actually, what did you say, Broken Time? He said, according to the supernal being I interacted with, it will always be. But I am not of that perspective where time is linear. It was a thing for thousands of years. I painstakingly was able to find the representation of this place in the Temenos, confirming that there are those who knew of him and talked about him. As a result of our investigations and interaction, he was dispatched in a way befitting his crimes through the
Small
intervention of the Supernal.
little small golf clap. Not to interrupt, but yeah. Good. Yeah.
I have been rather loath to state my perspective on certain things in our company for the sake of avoiding it becoming a conversation of that nature. There will be some things I would like to do in the future, and I will, of course, invite any others here who wish to participate. However, an encounter with someone so sinister has forced me to recognize that perhaps my desire to be agnostic about a person's choices is leading to some outcomes that are undesirable. So, let it be known that I and what did he say, Coven? Trying to remember. Does he?
Because you guys have never used the
They
term
know?
cabal.
No,
Yeah,
I know, but I just mean there. Like he's shared with all those people.
Oh.
I'm trying to remember, like biographical information that's relevant. Would people be able to figure out that Legba is in Purgatory Bluff, right? I'm trying to. How has he kept that hidden? I mean, with the shadow
Right,
name, it's hard for people to find that out.
Right.
So I'm asking you, what do you think?
I think that this is basically the first time that the Coven, the Witches of Purgatory Bluff, are like out and about, other than some notes in New York saying there is a nameless order out in Colorado, and it may not even have membership, just the fact that you're out there.
Okay.
Heck, I don't even think you were going by the name Legba back then.
No.
Yeah, so they probably biographically, people probably don't have a understanding of Purgatory Bluff as being a place for you.
Well then, great. So then he said it's important for to establish this name. So he is then going to say it here. I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to determine if there's somebody did before or this is the first time, and so I could treat it appropriately as the first time as it was. So then he would take a deep breath and he'd say, "Let it be known that the Witches of Purgatory Bluff do not stand for sinister activity anywhere we find it. Those who are left-handed will be opposed."
Some nausea, you're in a public setting. Everybody's going to agree with that concept, right?
Yeah, I'm against the bad stuff, of course.
Right. Or, what I'm doing isn't left-handed.
That's right, totally.
But they nod, and then somebody was like, "Wait, so this place has it's in the Temenos?"
It did.
Okay. Gonna let some buddies know. We'll go take a look. And like very quickly, there's some folks who are like, "Yeah, we'll go take a look." You're not going to tear down the Temenic representation, but might be worth poking in and seeing what they were up to and see if that leads you to supporters or
Mhm.
something like that. And especially when you're
Totally.
talking about to the Supernal Being fan club,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And being like these guys were
Yes.
eating them. And to be
Yes.
fair, that's where it ended up. But when he
Yes.
started, he was trying to become supernal in a
Yeah,
different
absolutely.
way. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's become just so twisted. And they're like, I'll get my gang together. We'll go check that place out and see if we that sounds horrific. And so you give the the GPS coordinates, right? Like
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
this is where that tower
Now
is.
that I've found it, I can tell people where it is. And then they don't have to be like, how the hell am I going to find this place in the middle of nowhere?
Yep.
It's like going to towns that have like 100 people in it that nobody knows about and there's no road signs or anything like that.
Yep.
Once
You
you've
just
been there, you'd
drive
be like,
and yep.
yes.
Yeah, my childhood. I like that. Yeah. And so with that, it's not a threat. Admonition, maybe? Warning.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Yeah. Hmm.
The mic is dropped and Legba exits stage left.
All right.
I like that. And your Damon is just like walking along with you. And like there's a little comment of like, okay, so we're gonna start finding apprentices and we're gonna start threatening people. This is gonna get exciting.
And then he's like looking at his side. He's like, I cannot commit violence, but I can still provide an implicit threat of someone committing violence, despite my aversion to performing it.
To be fair, your condition is just not starting with violence.
Yeah, but he doesn't see it
that's
that way
true.
right now.
That's
Remember,
true.
because
Yeah.
it's such a dramatic contrast from being able to jump in and wrap somebody in chains at the drop of a hat, yell at them till the spittle is flying in their eyes,
Yeah.
right? Like for him, he's like, I'll never be able to do this again. And then we're going to get to the point in the story where he forces himself. He's like, oh, okay, I understand it differently. But this is like,
this is now I've been forced into it. Now
Yes.
it's okay. Yeah.
yes, that's right. This is the first time he had to confront how horrific it was for that kid and for an 11-year-old kid to do that to another one, right? So
Right.
like the whole initial event is now just so unsettling to him because he's not used to seeing it that way, that contrast. It's just like, okay, this is something I can't do. And that's why he said it to the members of the covenant. It's not because I misunderstood what you were saying.
Right.
Is that the way Legba understood was, I can't do this anymore. Great. I've
Cool.
wanted to get to a point where I won't. He's like, I can't. Then eventually it'll be like, oh, I can. All right. Okay. It provided that I've satisfied a certain criteria in my mind. Oh, now I understand that I can only perform violence in the way that I think violence should be performed. As a secondary, as a last resort.
Right.
Wow. That's what it's like to be a person.
Oh, poor Jean Paul.
I know, right? He was just a kid.
Yep.
Just a kid.
All right. Well, with that,
Yeah.
thank you all for joining us. It means a lot to have you here. The last of our triptych of one shots. Ash and I will not be doing a Helena one. We just couldn't find a good thing to nail on it, but you will probably see more of these in the future because they're really fun.
Heck yeah.
And the first one I got to play as Chris's husband, and the second one I got to play as Craig's wife. And here I'm playing as Ralph's Jiminy Cricket
Sister. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sister. Okay, that too. So yeah, these are really, really fun and interesting to do. And as I mentioned in the last one, dude, like as a DM, you get to be everything for your players. Just embrace it. You get to meet people and on a different level. It's really fun. Thank you for this, Ralph. This is really good. I always get to. I always enjoy getting to dig into Legba. You put a lot of effort and thought into the character, so it shows.
Thank you.
If y'all want to come talk about this, come by Discord, www.eatinto.space, and come chat with us. I think this will be episode 60, which is kind of cool. And then if you want to support us monetarily, that's www.staylucky.club. Again, not something that we are relying on, not something that, feeds us or anything like that, but it lets us do stuff like art, lets us buy computer upgrades, hardware, that kind of stuff. So that's greatly appreciated if you so wish to do. Otherwise, we will see you next week for I believe, next regular Everybody's Here episode.
Yay. Thanks a lot.